What is the crack, everybody? I'm the Minyon, and I'm back, and I'm playing a game review. What are the odds? Well, this is Yu-Gi-Oh! Legacy of the Duelist. I hope you enjoy. Well, in case you didn't know, I was a huge Yu-Gi-Oh! Fan back in the day. I still have my cards lying around, but, of course, the problem with Yu-Gi-Oh! Was the fan base kind of started to die off a bit, and I didn't have any decent Yu-Gi-Oh! Games to play. Well, none on the PS4 anyway, until this game came to my attention. Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a difficult game to get used to. There's so many different cards, so many different combos and variations. You can either put them face down or face up, and there was a difference between magic cards, which you use on your own turn, trap cards, which you use on your opponent's turn, and you both use your monsters in order to beat your opponent. And it's all very kind of full of rules and just strategies to implement and stuff. And it was a really fun game for its day. And when I seen it on PS4, I thought, nah, maybe I'll give it a miss. But my cousin suggested it and said, no, you have to check it out, Minyon. It's very good. If you remember Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I remember Yu-Gi-Oh!, you'll love this. So I gave it a try. I was totally impressed. Very impressed with the game. Now, as you go through it, you play the story mode. You use old familiar cards that you used to play back in the day, like Sangan and Shadow Spell and Swords of Revealing Light and all this kind of stuff. So there's a good nostalgia aspect to it. So I was playing the story mode, and I was just getting used to these decks, because obviously you don't have enough cards at the start to make a decent deck, but you get to use the story decks. So obviously I'm playing Yugi versus Kaiba, very basic cards, the basic of cards, and you just kind of get used to it again, slowly but surely. I found Yugi's deck completely terrible, but it did have Exodia. Exodia is a very powerful combination of 5 cards, which allows you to win any duel once you have them all. Cards like that won't help you though. That's what I call absolute garbage. But the good thing about having garbage is it's disposable. You need to be using your garbage cards to force your opponent to use up their good cards. Once the way is clear, then you can use your good cards. Of course, you're going against Kaiba, who doesn't care about having mediocre cards. He just goes for the jugular. Holy shit, Pot of Greed! Oh man, that thing's been banned for like forever. It's been a long time since I got to use Pot of Greed in a deck, I'm not gonna lie. Because that was the thing about Yu-Gi-Oh! Is as every season went on, cards became more and more dangerous, would probably be the perfect word to use. Dark Hole, for instance. How overpowered is that, man? But somehow you're allowed to have 2 of them and no Pot of Greeds. Because the thing about drawing cards and getting cards from your deck is it gives you an immediate advantage over your opponent. And the more cards you have, the more options you have. And more options means the better chance you have of winning. So, needless to say, every kind of season, cards get reviewed by, I don't know, maybe some unelected bureaucracy somewhere, and they say, hey, let's ban these cards, like Monster Reborn. Yeah, it's appearing in too many decks. Let's just ban it, get rid of it, and people won't be using it as much. Sound logic, you might think. I think it makes sort of sense. If cards become too overpowered because of game-breaking combos, then they need to be regulated. They need to be limited to 1 or 2 per deck, or full-on, let's just ban that shit. And that tends to happen quite a bit. A lot, especially with cards that are just too good to begin with. They're all banned. Chaos Emperor Dragon, all these kind of cards, because they're game enders. And the whole point of Yu-Gi-Oh! Was to have a kind of a level playing field with you and your opponent. You both make your own decks, but you stick to the rules, also allowing to bend the rules here and there. So, with this game, the story mode decks often break these rules. You can't have more than 1 Sangan in a deck. That's just madness. For the simple fact that it's a powerful card, and it allows you to take cards from your deck, and that's giving you an advantage on your opponent, and therefore it's limited to 1, or in the case of many cards like Sangan, which is Black Forest, no, they're banned completely. Story decks don't really care about that. They don't care at all. So doesn't matter what you get in the story mode, just go with it, use whatever you can. The whole point of playing the story decks is just to get you sort of enough points so you can go buy packs and once you unlock a few packs, then you can make your own deck. But until then, you're kind of stuck with what they give you. The finer rules to Yu-Gi-Oh! Are quite clever too, because the higher the level of the monster means the harder it is to get them on the field, because the better the monster, the quicker you win the game. So there needs to be rules in place for you to get this monster out. This all comes down to your summons. You're allowed one summon per turn, and you need to use it well. You need to put a low level monster down first, and then later on, after you've built up a few monsters, you can tribute them for the bigger monsters. And that's what wins you games. Unless your opponent has trap cards everywhere, then you're just wasting all your good monsters. But this story deck has a different alternative. Like I mentioned with Exodia, all you need is those 5 pieces and you need to win. So you don't necessarily need to outmuscle your opponent. You just need to outlive them for long enough to draw the cards you need from your deck. Which is perfect. There's so many decks that are built like that. I just find 5 card combos are very hard to pull off. So you want to keep your card combinations smaller, and it allows your deck to be able to work together a lot easier, because especially with Exodia, you're only allowed to have one of each piece of them. So it's not like you can have multiple pieces of Exodia and have multiple ways to win. Now obviously with the Sanguine effect, you can take pieces of Exodia from your deck, and bada bing, your opponent doesn't stand a chance. But hey, that's kind of what happens when you're using a deck that's completely rigged, isn't it, Yugi? Talking about harder cards. How dare you? And after you play the first round, you also have to play the reverse of the fixture. So if you play with Yugi first, you must go back and play the reverse game as Kaiba. And that will allow you to unlock both players' recipes, maybe get their best cards as well, because when you're beating a player, you tend to get their signature cards. Hopefully nothing terrible like that mesmeric control. God, when would you ever find a use for that thing? But that's the magic of Yu-Gi-Oh! Is cards that seem absolutely useless, somehow when paired up with something else, they could be really, really good. So that's the magic of Yu-Gi-Oh! You throw these cards together, you're doing new combinations every time, but at the same time, you are planning to do the certain combos that win you games. These games aren't meant to be long, drawn-out battles, where you go 40 turns into a game. No, a deck is built for a simple purpose: winning as quickly as humanly possible. The early decks don't tend to do that because they've got so much filler and so much crap thrown in. But you'll find with a lot of the later decks in Yu-Gi-Oh!, such as the structure decks, they're built to work together. So there's no normal monsters, unless there's cards to do with normal monsters, I suppose. The majority of them were effect, because effect monsters are the ones that work well together. They boost each other up, they power each other up. There's ways of recycling using effect cards and stuff. So there's so much going on in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! And being able to use both sides of the spectrum, to use the good guys deck and then to go off and use the bad guys deck, you see the differences in tactics. Kaiba's just complete strong arm. Just get high level monsters on the field and kill your opponent as quickly as possible. Unfortunately, that doesn't beat every deck. It'll beat a lot of the decks a lot of the time. It won't beat all the decks all of the time. Eventually you're going to come up against someone who's prepared to take on your monsters, or they've got a combination that completely bypasses their monsters, and your high attack monsters don't count for nothing. But this all comes with practice and deck building, of course. Now, if you're not in the mood for playing single player just to grind and get points for buying cards in the card store, you may want to go in and take a gander at the multiplayer. The multiplayer in previous Yu-Gi-Oh! Games, like one I played on the PlayStation 3, weren't fantastic. The connection was terrible. You were waiting ages for your turn. It's if you even did get into a game. So the connectivity wasn't top notch. So I wasn't sure what to expect with this one. It was easy enough joining a game. You basically just had to have both parties ready. Someone sets up a lobby and sends the other person an invite. Bing bash bosh, you're in a game. Pretty handy stuff. So I thought, this is my first competitive game in a while. Do I go easy on him? Nah, no, never go easy. But always go second. Second is a much better place. Come on, Yugi! I'm going to take you down, you fiend! For this versus match, I chose to go with my dedicated Bakura deck, which I will be explaining how I built after this little tutorial. So, yeah, I was expecting it to be very sluggish, to take your time, but I have to say I was quite impressed with how seamless and smooth the online play was. Now, I'll give Nathan credit. He's sound for putting me onto this game and all, but he was not prepared for the deck I threw together. Nathan has been long out of the game, so he's only used to your old school cards, the monsters, the magic, the spell, or the trap cards, the fusion monsters and stuff. But he was nowhere near ready for the synchro cards or the XYZ monsters, which is what he was a little underprepared for everything this deck had ready for him. You need to utilize that extra deck. It takes a bit of getting used to these synchro monsters. It's all to do with getting a tuner monster on the field, adding up the stars to a certain amount, and then you can bring out your big monster. But it's all to do with matching the star levels. XYZ monsters are basically just about getting the same amount of levels, so 2 level 4s or 3 level 5s would then pile up to become the XYZ monster. It does get a little complicated after that, and especially when I went to that tournament and got absolutely battered by guys with synchro cards and XYZ monsters. But you just have to adapt and get used to it. There is a way to incorporate these into any deck, and it's just about throwing a couple of tuner monsters in there, just so long as they're the right theme for that deck, or the right monster type for that deck. Good old classics like Dark Hole, always a great tactic. You use Swords of Revealing Light to allow your opponent to build up their monsters, and then you just Dark Hole them. Simple. Now, obviously, Dark Hole will prove a problem if you have monsters, because that's its downside, is it destroys all monsters on the field. So you just need to watch out for stuff like that. Obviously, what you want to be focusing on with this kind of deck is your high level 1 summon attack monsters. Nathan was prepared. Damn you, you fiend! He went straight for my life points. But people have different preferences when it comes to their trap cards. So I used to be a big fan of Magic Cylinder because it was a lifesaver, and it could technically win you the duel at certain times. But it doesn't solve the problem of the attacking monster. All it does is divert the attack. It means in the next turn you still have to deal with that same monster problem. So there's tons of different cards out there. You can destroy them with the likes of Sakuretsu Armor or Mirror Force, or you can do what I tend to do, which is use cards that change battle positions. Because you might not always be able to destroy a monster, but you can generally always change its battle position, and changing its battle position midway through the battle phase will guarantee you a safe turn, and you will make it to the next turn, saving your monster and saving your life points. And that is the key. The other main tactic to this deck is to just get as many high level attack monsters on the field as possible, and then tribute them for your bigger dudes, because the majority of the high level monsters in this deck get a bonus attack from the monsters you tribute someone for them. It has to be their original attack, or you just end up with a 0 attack monster because all the monsters you used were 0 original attack. Watch out for that. I nearly got done by that. So it was a good tactic. He attacked first just to make sure if there was anything I'd use it up, and then he destroys my drawing card. Oh, it's like that, huh? Okay. I didn't think it was going to be this kind of cutthroat game, but you stopped me from drawing, that's it. You're going down. So this is one of the cards I was talking about. This is one of those changing battle position cards. So effective. I can't stress how effective it is. You can use it as a defensive move. You can use it as an attacking move. Just, there's 2 ways to use it. But those 2 ways could be a life saver or a game ender. If their defense is too high and you can't get to them, you switch them to attack mode, you finish that duel right there and then. There's no playing around in Yu-Gi-Oh! Your whole deck should be designed to finish a game in an instant. Throw a couple of combos together, eliminate any hope of your opponent beating you, and just go straight for the jugular. Hey, if it works, it works. If it's not broken, don't fix it. How many more of these slogans do you want me to throw at you? It works, damn it! Especially these extra deck monsters. Synchro summons are just out so efficiently and so quickly, and the majority of them have great effects. So this guy has an effect that if he's destroyed by battle, his attack comes off the attacking monster's attack. That's 2-4 off any attack. You're rendering their monster useless by summoning this guy. So, yeah, I can't stress it enough. They might confuse you at first, but you gotta focus on those synchro and extra deck monsters. Having one in there isn't gonna help you. It gives you options. This is all pans back to what I was saying about options. The more cards you have means the more options that are available to you, and the more slick and more kind of refined your combos can be. Instead of just kind of chipping away at your opponent, you can literally finish games just off the bat. I've seen it done. I've been to tournaments. Obviously cards get banned very easily because of stuff like that, but there is loads of combo breaking games out there. It just takes a clever mind and a clever deck building strategy to find these game breaking combos that will eventually lead to cards being banned en masse because of you. Well done. There is layers of rules to this game that I haven't really gotten into yet, which is the chain effect. So basically anything activated, the last thing activated will be the first thing to happen in the chain. So you have to be very clever with how you use things. Sometimes it's not good enough just to have the cards in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's also about knowing what order to use them in, when to use them, and most importantly, when not to use them. You don't want to be wasting your cards. You don't want to use a card when it's the wrong time, because it might end up affecting you badly instead of your opponent badly. And just kind of assess it before you make your move. Just quickly know what order you're going to put these cards in so that they will have the best effect. So I used Rajiki Break to take out his face down card because there was a chance that if I brought out a monster, he could use that card to destroy my monster. So destroy his cards before you bring them out. I will be going more into detail about how I built my Bakura deck from scratch, from the card store, in the next episode. So definitely wait around and check that one out. That'll be out next. There's other aspects to the game as well. If you're not really into building decks and you're not really into grinding against the computer, is you can go and play battle packs. And battle packs are generally just randomly made decks. If you don't want to go through the hassle of making a deck and saying, well, you spend 2 hours making a deck, like, okay, maybe I'll put this in, maybe I won't. You build the deck and then realize that you've made a few problems. You have to go in and take cards out. It's a lengthy process. You're not going to build a deck and then that's it. It's done. You're going to use it, you're going to notice problems, and you're going to be swapping and changing cards out to suit those problems and to fix the deck and stuff. But hey, if you want to just randomly play, go into the battle packs, set one up. You can play online or you can play against the computer. I chose the computer just to get in there slowly and kind of get used to it. But there was a lot of fun involved in just using a random deck. It's very rare that you would do that. Have an as random assortment of cards all thrown together. Your opponent has the same thing, and you basically just have to hope for the best. And that's old school, man. That's what I used to live for. I used to call up the Petzos, make a fresh deck right there and then, and then use it. And there's a lot of fun to be had in that. Even if you've never played Yu-Gi-Oh before, I'm a big fan of trying to push this game on people, and they probably hate me because of it, but I used to have all my friends playing this back in the day, all with the real decks and stuff, and we used to have such a laugh playing it. It's like chess. It's like next level chess, except you're using and creating the deck yourself, and each person creates their own decks, and in that sense everyone has a level playing field, in the sense that you can all choose the same cards if you just wanted to, but the whole point is variety and combinations, and how different combinations can happen at any time. You could have the same duel with the same person over and over again. It's very rare you'll get the same cards in the same order. I mean, it's so random. All the best decks are decks that are tuned and refined to helping each other. So they're either all about boosting attack and defense, or they're about removing from play. It's very hard to have a deck with all of these scenarios mixed in together, because you can't account for every situation. Doesn't matter what deck you build, eventually you're going to find a deck that is built to take yours down. Not by force or by means, but it's just the way it works. Their combinations will work a different way to your deck, and it will be your Achilles heel. It's always going to happen, which is why you have side decks, so in between duels you can go out and swap out cards that are no longer effective against different decks. So I'll be going more into deck building in the next episode, but if this tickles your fancy, if you think you like the look of how this Yu-Gi-Oh game plays out, Legacy of the Duelist, do check it out. Hit me up on PSN, we'll play a few games, and let me know what sort of decks you like to build and what your sort of favourite strategies are. Cheers guys, I'll see you next time.